This is my first time filming since having 500 subscribers. Kinda cool and kinda fun. So if you are subscribed, thank you and I love you. And if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and do that now and I will love you also. Anyway, that aside, today's video is about jealousy. Why do people get jealous and what can we do to make it feel a little bit better? I think that I'm going to assume everyone already knows what jealousy is, so I'm not going to bother with a definition today. But I do think it's worth mentioning that jealousy is a super normal emotion. I think everyone probably experiences jealousy at some point or points during their life. So you're definitely not a bad person and there isn't something wrong with you if you're someone who feels a lot of jealousy. But there is definitely a point at which it becomes sort of harmful to yourself and your own mental well-being as well as to the relationship that you're in. So with that said, here are some reasons why people might feel jealous. I think the first one is the most obvious one, and that is that you feel insecure in yourself and in your relationship. If you're someone who has low self-esteem and you don't really understand why someone would want to be in a relationship with you, it makes sense that you would assume that the person you're dating doesn't want you and is interested in other people. I think this is probably a super common reason people get jealous, which is kind of sad, but I think a lot of people just have this really negative view of themselves and maybe don't like themselves enough to see why anyone would want to be in a relationship with them. And so this jealousy kind of comes out as not just an automatic response to feeling unwanted and unworthy, but also to some degree I think that it's kind of a way of getting this external validation or attention or reassurance from your partner that you are good enough and that they do want you and only you. Also, I feel like a lot of the people who don't really like themselves and rely on this external validation a lot are also the kind of people who really struggle to be alone. You know, the kind of people that always have to be in a relationship. So I feel like these people are probably a little bit more hypervigilant about looking for any kind of signs that their partner maybe doesn't want to be with them or wants to break up. The next reason people get jealous I think is kind of similar to this, and that is attachment or abandonment issues. People who are more anxiously attached tend to get more worried about their partner leaving them. So again, there's a sense of hypervigilance and looking out for any kind of indication that your partner maybe wants someone else or is planning on leaving you. A lot of these attachment issues and abandonment issues come from your past experiences with people, which is another reason that people probably get jealous kind of easily. If you've had past relationship experiences where someone's maybe cheated on you or broken your trust in some other way, you're probably going to hold on to this and you might take that into all of your future relationships. And then you kind of assume that everyone else is going to treat you in the same way that you've been treated before. And so you might be a bit more quick to jump to the assumption that someone is being untrustworthy or acting in the way that someone has in your past. Trust issues. Aren't they so fun? Also, even before your dating history, the experiences you've had growing up probably play a huge role in how easily you get jealous. For one thing, your attachment orientation is generally developed when you're like really little and is based on your primary attachment figure or figures. So maybe if you had a primary attachment figure growing up who created these feelings of insecurity and abandonment and inconsistency, that's something that you hold on to and expect from your adult relationships. So if someone you're with does something that in some way maybe triggers those feelings of insecurity and abandonment and inconsistency, your attachment system will get activated and you respond in whatever way you learn to keep yourself safe growing up, which for people who are more anxiously attached tends to be this kind of emotional, upset, clingy, jealous sort of response. Isn't that so fun? Shout out to your parents, I guess. Speaking of parents, or other primary attachment figures, whatever kind of relationships you witnessed growing up will also probably play a role in the development of your expectations in relationships. So if you saw a lot of relationships where people had trust issues or were cheating on each other or were super jealous all of the time, it probably sticks in your head that this is normal for relationships. This is just kind of how they are, how people treat each other when they're dating, and that's obviously going to shape the way you act and respond in your own relationships. I think another place you might see these kind of relationship patterns modeled is in the media. I feel like movies and the internet have really like sexified jealousy and made it seem sort of romantic. I'm thinking people like Christian Grey, Edward Cullen, where they were so quick to get like jealous and respond in this super intense way at even the smallest, tiniest thing. And it was meant to show how much they care and love their partner, which is sort of a little bit messed up. Speaking of Edward Cullen and Christian Grey, I think another trait that might make people more likely to be jealous is having a kind of obsessive personality. I think if you have more obsessive traits, this probably tends to show up in your relationships with people where you maybe become extremely obsessed with them and feel this very intense kind of attachment to them. And maybe you expect the same from them in return. You want to feel like they are equally as obsessed with and attached to you. And so you might get super mad or jealous at any potential threats to this relationship. Also, I think a part of this is kind of this idea of wanting to test your partner or wanting to make them jealous, essentially because you feel like they should be just as obsessed with you as you are with them. So this might lead you to intentionally trying to make them feel jealous in order to get a response from them that proves that they care or that they're super worried about losing you. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how often this has the kind of desired response, because not only is there this whole bit of that being really fucking annoying for them, if they don't respond in a way that is intense enough or meets your expectations, you're going to be pissed, you're going to push them away, you're maybe going to decide that they don't care about you. And actually, I think that this is too big of a topic to talk about in this video. Like, the reasons why you might make someone jealous is a big topic, so I'll probably do a video about it. But how often do I say that? Where was I? Obsessive personality traits. Yeah, I think it kind of makes sense why someone who is very obsessive might be more jealous in relationships. Another kind of personality trait that I think would probably be associated with jealousy is kind of having more of a paranoid personality or paranoid responses to things in general. Because I think this makes sense. If you're someone who has a tendency to assume the worst in people all the time and always thinks that people have ulterior motives and always reads into every situation thinking something sneaky is going on, yeah, you're probably going to interpret more situations as requiring some sort of jealous or angry response. And then the last reason that you might be feeling jealous in a relationship is that you have a good reason to. Maybe your partner is one of those people who intentionally is trying to make you feel jealous to get some sort of reaction out of you. Or maybe they are cheating on you, probably with your best friend. Who knows? Either way, I would be a liar and a fake if I didn't at least mention that this is a possibility and it's something that does happen. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about what you can do to maybe make things a little bit better if you are feeling jealous. As always, I've gotten halfway through filming and realized that I completely forgot about the little coffee I made, so I'm gonna have that now during the rest of the video. It's not as hot as it should be, but it'll do. Also, since this is the halfway point, go like the video if you're enjoying it. Subscribe to my channel if that's not something you've done yet. Anywho, on to the ways to make it feel better. I think the big obvious thing that you have to do in order to feel less jealous so much of the time is to deal with whatever is going on with yourself. So to do this, you have to figure out where the jealousy is stemming from. Is it the stuff about the low self-esteem? Is it attachment issues? Is it obsessiveness or general paranoia, or, you know, whatever else? I think there has to be something, because it's obviously not just coming out of nowhere. So find out what the root is and then work on that first. For some people, this is probably going to take seeing an actual therapist, depending on the extent of whatever's going on. But I think for most people, it can probably be done on your own through a whole bunch of different ways. The internet is a very epic source of information for dealing with very, very specific things, like dealing with low self-worth and whatnot. Also, I have personally read almost every single self-help book that's ever been written, so that's crazy. Why am I still fucked up? But if you let me know a specific issue you're having, I could maybe recommend a book, or maybe you should not take my advice at all. One thing I do want to mention here is that a lot of people say that you need to stay single while you're doing this work. And personally, I don't think this is necessarily true in all cases. For a lot of people, I do think it's super doable to be in a relationship while you're working on these things within yourself. But then on the other hand, it probably isn't doable or smart for other people. I think it very much depends. Like, if your problems are going far enough where you're going to be hurting the person you're with because of them, then that's not really fair, and you should not be hurting someone else because you have something you need to deal with. So in that case, it is better to stay single. But this really is just going to be something that is different for everyone. Okay, I think the next thing to do here is to develop some techniques and coping skills for handling intense emotions in the moment. I think this is especially important if you're someone who reacts super impulsively when you're jealous. Maybe you yell or you lash out or you immediately break up with the person that you're with. Just maybe develop some ways of calming yourself down in the moment, giving yourself time to think through how you actually want to react before automatically responding in a way that could end up being super damaging. So I guess this is kind of just developing emotional regulation skills. So crunch on some ice or something, take deep breaths. I don't know, again, this is something that will end up being different for everyone. Everyone will have different techniques that work really well for them that might not work for other people. The next thing you can do to help when you're feeling jealous is to have a conversation with your partner. So here you can explain what the feelings are and maybe where the feelings are stemming from, if that's something that you know, and how any situation that you're in might be sort of triggering these feelings. I think it's important here when you're explaining these things is not to put the responsibility on your partner for your emotions. Nonviolent Communication is a really good book if you want to learn how to express your feelings about a situation to someone without blaming them or trying to make them take responsibility for your feelings. But having this conversation is good because it lets you talk through your feelings instead of having some sort of maladaptive response like lashing out or giving them the silent treatment. And so you get to use this as an opportunity to practice healthy communication skills. I also think that during the early stages of relationships, it's such a good idea to have a conversation with your partner about your boundaries when it comes to this sort of thing. I feel like it's good to make sure that you're on the same page about what you and your partner view as like flirting, because I do think that this is something that is different for a lot of people. What one person views as flirting, another person might view as just a really normal way of interacting with people. I think that this is such an important thing for you and your partner to be on the same page about, because if it's something that you and your partner fundamentally disagree on, it's going to be really hard to just ignore that throughout the relationship and push it under the rug and hope for the best. I also think it's a really good idea to have someone outside of the relationship that you can talk to about whatever's going on, like a third party who you can go to and talk through the situation and discuss whether or not you're being maybe a little bit unfair or unreasonable. Please do not make this your friend who really loves drama and chaos and will be like, fuck him for saying thank you to the person who made his coffee. You deserve better and you should dump him immediately. Maybe choose a friend who you know will be able to kind of rationalize and help you figure out whether it is something that is actually worth being upset over. And I think my last tip for helping when you're feeling super jealous is to do something really nice or really positive for your partner, even if you feel like doing something super destructive. Like, let them know that you appreciate them and are glad that they're in your life. Make them a cup of tea. However you show love in your relationship, just do something like that. This is kind of an idea from positive psychology, which has been found to make people feel a lot better in other situations where you essentially react in a way that is super counterintuitive to how you're feeling. This has worked for a lot of things like anger and other negative emotions. So I'm assuming it probably works the same for jealousy, if I had to guess. Yeah, that's all my tips. Except for obviously if they are actually cheating on you, in which case I don't think I can really tell you how to respond to that, because I think for some people that is something that you can work through and overcome in a relationship. Personally for me, if I'm cheated on, the relationship is over, like there's no saving that. But if you're someone who would work through that, I genuinely don't know how to give you advice for coping with the jealousy after that. But yeah, I guess that's just something for you and your partner to figure out. But yes, I'm going to end the video here. If you enjoyed it, please like it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that. And leave a comment about what your boundaries are when it comes to flirting with other people when you're in a relationship. Because I feel like I have a pretty high threshold when it comes to what I don't view as flirting. I feel like this is definitely something I need to figure out explicitly before ever trying to get into a relationship, which is never gonna happen. I don't actually quite know like where I draw the line. Anyway, whatever. Let me know where your line is. That's it. Okay, love you, bye.